surface. I wanna take you far away.
Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com.
Like nothing that we've ever known.
Okay, so this is part 2 of why you need to leave the narcissist or get away from anyone who's just a negative person and they've been that way for a long time. Again, it's not someone that you're in love with, married to, and it's only been 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe they're going through a rough patch of 2-3 months. But if that rough patch turns into a year, 2 years, 3, yeah, you really need to, because life is way too short. And believe it or not, there might be something that they need to learn that they can only learn when you leave them. Okay, so again, when I went to Fort Benning, Georgia and did my military training, airborne, actually this was boot camp, basic, advanced infantry, etc., specialty training, etc. We had a patch on our shoulder and it was a sword going straight up. And it said, "Follow me." Now here's the deal, believe it or not, the narcissist hurt you on purpose and wounded you deeply because they don't believe they can get out of where they're at, okay? And so they're like, well, you don't understand because you've never been hurt this bad. But the fact of the matter is empaths have been hurt way worse than a narcissist. But a narcissist doesn't believe that. So they've got to damage you as much as possible. And if you can get out of that pain and suffering and get back into the joy and happiness and the light shines, then they're going to be like, well, wait a minute, maybe I can get out of this. Here's the other thing. Your friends, your family, children around you, people that, observe you, if they can see you shine bright in the world the way it is now, you are leading the way. People need this now more than ever. Here's my point on all of this. You're going to have to start leading. You're going to have to start healing. You're going to have to start finding ways to become a better, more grounded, down-to-earth person who feels solid inside. Okay, let's turn the volume of the music down a little bit here. So the way this works is, and I know a lot of you believe this, is there's a light within you. It's God's light, it's the spirit of light, etc., whatever you want to call it. So what I'm saying is, the brighter your light, the more people can see, like, wow, that person's really shining. So if your light isn't bright, if it's not shining, well, it's like they can't see it, therefore they're not going to believe it. Not only that, but there's no light. There's no light to lead the way, so to speak. And therefore, the brighter you become, the more they believe and the more they're willing to take action. So going around trying to fix other people is the backwards way. That is the wrong way. Turn within, look within. This is what Jesus meant when he said look within in the Bible. If you don't believe me, pick up your Bible and read it. It is literally the exact same teaching that Buddhists teach. Look within. It's within you. So here's the deal. Some people have to learn by suffering. Okay, I would say a lot of people do. I think for some reason, suffering and learning is tied closely together, but it doesn't have to be. And I think that's something some people just think, oh, well, learning is painful and you only learn when you suffer tremendously. You don't have to, though. The more conscious you are, the more aware you become, the more self-aware you become, the faster and sooner you can learn lessons and you don't have to suffer as much. In fact, you really don't have to suffer. It's kind of like, well, if you keep stubbing this is a real example, a real life physical example. If you keep stubbing your toe on the same place on the sidewalk every day, it's like, well, you're not learning, so you're going to keep stubbing that toe until you get sick and tired of that pain, and then you're going to start looking around when you get to that point or place on the sidewalk and go, oh, the sidewalk's cracked and that piece is sticking up and I keep slamming my toe into it. So from that point on, you can start figuring out, well, how do I deal with this? Well, I could fix the sidewalk, or I could lift my foot and step over it. Believe it or not, but that's how easy most of the lessons are in life. I mean, most of the lessons that are deep lessons, super simple. I'll give you one that I've given you in the past, at least twice on this channel. It is so unbelievably simple. And here's the funny thing. All of you have heard it before. Not just once, not twice, but dozens, possibly hundreds of times. But it didn't really hit home. You say, oh, okay, yeah, whatever, man. See, a lot of you, until you absolutely have to learn the lesson because you're suffering so much for so long, you're like, that's too easy. It's too simple. It's got to be harder than that. When in fact, it's actually not. The lessons in and of themselves are super easy, but unbelievably powerful. If there is one thing that I have learned in my healing journey over the last 35, 40 years, the learnings seem too simplistic to actually work. And a lot of times when men come to my course, Cracked Female Code, they're like, oh, it's got to be harder than that. And it's like I laugh every time because I used to be that way. Well, if it's not hard, then it must not be worth it. If it's not hard, it must not be real. Talking about dense, not only dense mentally, but dense energy. See, when someone goes, that person's dense, it literally means that they're dense physically and mentally. And technically, energetically, their energy is just dense. And therefore, those people are really hard to reach. There was this lesson they taught to us, or said to us over and over, at least 10 times, 15 times a day, is pay attention or you'll pay in pain. Pay attention or you'll pay in pain. They put it in our manual. They wrote it up on this big, flip charts. Put it up on the wall and left it there, all day for us to see it. And then whenever someone would say something, they'd be like, oh, and then, one of the trainers, that was doing the session at the time, or the class would say, pay attention or you'll pay in pain. And let me tell you, I'm just really there now. And that's what I made a video recently about how you took on this really, what's the word? Let me just pull it up right now. You chose the impossible journey. This journey that you chose, that you're on, is very painful. It's going to be painful until you start to pay attention. Now listen closely. Here's the really weird thing. That's when things start to lighten up. See, once your energy lightens up, you become more aware of things. You begin to notice things. Oh, there's a freaking ditch in the road. Better slow down. Better go around. Maybe we need to make a U-turn. See, if you start paying attention to stuff, life becomes smoother, lighter, much more expansive. Now admit it, most of us on this channel have dealt with a ton of narcissist abuse. We tried to fix them. We tried to be kind to them. We tried to love them. We just thought, well, if I love them enough, they're going to heal. They're going to become better. If I'm patient, it's like, no, they're not changing. All they're doing is attacking you and hurting you, and they're having fun doing it. We weren't being honest with ourselves. We were not truly paying attention. We were not truly seeing things for the way that they actually are versus, well, everyone's good. There's good in everyone. No, there's not good in everyone. That's just not true. In fact, most people are so damaged and so negative and so evil, even if there is a little bit of good in them. Run! Pay attention or you'll pay in pain. So what happened with most of us is we got hurt so bad, our eyes got ripped wide open, and we finally just go, what is going on here? And that's really why you finally woke up to what's going on and why you kept getting hurt. The first thing and number one thing that empaths do is we only want to see the good in people. Now listen closely. Number one, we only want to see the good in people, and we always see the good in people no matter how violent, vicious, and mean that they are. So now we're like, oh, okay, I need to start seeing both sides of the fence here. Like, yeah, you need to start looking for the bad in people too. You need, and here's another thing, you need to start being honest when someone lies to you. Record that and go, okay, they just lied to me 3 days in a row now. Yeah, this is probably not a good piece of person to be around. Now, I'm not saying people got to be perfect, but you've really got to be like, hey, this person has a lying problem. Do not brush it under the rug anymore. Just be like, hey, this is what they did. I see it for what it is. All right, now, here's another reason why. I'll give you an example of why you need to leave people where your life is just miserable when you're around them, or maybe together you guys are miserable. So watch this. So Dr. Tad James, during one of our long trainings, 5-week trainings, he had said, okay, so a woman asked, how did she ask? I was trying to set this up right. We were doing the marriage and relationship counseling part, and how NLP applies to it, and how to do this and how to do that. And I'm drawing a blank on how it was started. So essentially the woman asked a question like, well, what if they're married? Like, what do they do? And I think they said, well, in a relationship, then just get out of the relationship and leave because it's not working and there's a lot of pain and suffering, etc., etc. I remember what it was. It was, what if one of the spouses don't change? They don't want to change. They don't try to change. And I remember Dr. Tad James looked at the woman without missing a beat and said, then you need to divorce them. You need to immediately leave them. And the woman said, but they're married. Now, back then, I was like, once you're married, that's it. You got to work it out till the day you die. Until I learned about narcissist abuse and how, like, here's the deal. I actually believe that they made that rule up. I actually believe that it's like, because the only person that rule benefits is a narcissist. I mean, if somebody is berating you, belittling you, gaslighting you, playing mind games, poisoning you, God knows what they're doing. Hell no. Get out of that marriage. So, Dr. Tad James repeated, and here's what he said. He said, look, that might be the catalyst to help this person to finally change. Have you guys ever been in a relationship or had a friend or someone, or maybe it was a teammate on a sports team or something? They were so... I'm not even trying to be mean, but I'm trying to stay with the video that I made on October 15th of October of this month. Is there's dense energy and then there's expanded, relaxed energy, open, expansive energy, and that's much better. So have you ever known someone that was so dense that even when you told them, even when their friends told them, or their ex-girlfriends and their family and parents and everyone told them, they're just like, well, I don't understand what you're so upset about. Like, now I mean this sincerely, what I'm about to say. Some people just can't comprehend or understand, well, why are you so upset at me? Like, what's the big deal? I don't understand. So what you do to help them, and I know a lot of us have done this, is like really like, and after a year of hearing this, or 2 years, you're like, fine, then I'll do it back to you if you don't think it's a big deal. And then when you do it back to them, there's just like, why would you do this to me? And you're like, this is what you do to me. And they just can't make the connection. All right, I don't smoke cigarettes, right? So there's some people that smoke cigarettes, and in fact, I even mentioned this on my channel. Some guy came on, it's like, oh, well, because I said, like, don't you hate it when people like smoke right in front of your face after you tell them, like, look, I don't like smoke. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't want to have nothing to do with it. And they end up blowing smoke, in your direction or smoking around you. And you're looking at them like, do they not fucking, like, can they not, understand English or something? Like, I told them directly. Well, some guy came on the channel thinking like, oh, hey, Mike, I'm going to help you out here, buddy. They probably just didn't realize that, they were standing upwind or whatever, and the smoke was getting blown in your face. I'm like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's how dense some people can be. Now, this guy even who said it to me, he's, oh, Mike, they probably don't realize they're doing it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly my point of the whole damn thing. That's how dumb they are. That's how dense and self-centered they are. I mean, from their perspective, like, well, I like cigarette smoking. I like the smell. I like the smoke. Fine, but other people don't. But I do. So you must no. Just because you like something doesn't mean someone else does. So one thing Dr. Tad James said, he goes, you have to understand, some people only learn from suffering again and again and again and again and again and again until one day they just completely, totally break down and they cry and they finally open up to say, what's going on here? Why does this keep happening to me? I don't understand. And now here's the key word. They want to understand. That's when they'll finally learn it. So if you stay in the relationship and you don't leave them, they'll never learn it. And you're just going to suffer with it for the rest of your life. Sometimes, and this is what he said, sometimes the best thing for you to do to someone is leave them. Because if it does hurt them, then hopefully they're going to get hurt enough times until they finally go, wait a minute. What are people mad at me for? Because some people genuinely don't understand. They just think you're being a pain in the ass. Now, I'm not saying I'm some innocent guy here, and here's what I mean. Like, narcissist abuse, I've dealt with my whole entire life. It wasn't until I turned about 31 when I just began to truly start putting the pieces together of the suffering that I've suffered for freaking decades. And even then, I was still kind of dense. Like, here's another person, love bombing me, putting me through the whole thing and doing the woe is me, poor me game and all the narcissist things. Because I didn't know what narcissist abuse was. But one of the things that I learned and I think it was around 31, 32 years old, is I noticed when I'd meet someone and they'd play the woe is me, feel sorry for me game right off the bat, that always ended up bad. And so that became one of my lessons. I would even share it with my clients and friends, and I would tell people, like, hey, I noticed there's a pattern here. Anytime someone plays the poor me game early on, like when you meet them, friendship, relationship, working situation, like they ended up yelling at you, screaming at you, and blaming you for all this shit, and you're like, whoa, what's going on? So whenever I'd meet someone that was like that, it's like, yep, this isn't going to work, bye-bye. Another one is we just don't want to leave them. Like, well, I can't leave them. I mean, they're in such a bad place, and that's another game that's the woe is me game. And someone just sent me a message recently saying I couldn't leave them because they were always out of a job, or they were always in debt, or they always had this problem, and they always had this, and they're finally just now going, yeah, that's part of their game. That's part of their issue. And one thing you have to realize, like, that's their issues. Those are not your issues. I mean, it's one thing to help a friend that it ends up working for them and they end up getting their life together, because we all have ups and downs. Like, I get that. But for some people, this is a tool. This is a tactic to make you feel sorry for them so you won't leave them, or so you'll keep paying their bills, or whatever, or letting them suck the life out of you. So I was doing this deep meditation. This was about, probably 12 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And something came to me. It was really simple. It was so simple, I thought, wow. But because I was in this space, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Now, here's the funny thing. This is the thing I said earlier. Like, you've heard this before, but, I didn't really pay attention. Like, okay, whatever, sounds too easy. The lesson that I needed to learn, especially in that moment, was walk away from bad, go towards good. Period. End of sentence. And I tell you what, I was like, it's so simple, but it's so powerful. My whole life changed. My whole world started to change. It was like one thing after another. I started to notice, like, this person would just argue and argue and argue. It's like, oh, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And I just I blocked on my cell phone. I cannot do this anymore. So this didn't happen like in one day or 1 week. It was kind of like, and then I met another friend a month later, and I started listening to the way he's talking to me, and maybe it wasn't even being negative towards me. Maybe they were just like, wow, they're just always upset. They're always misery. They're always. I was like, oh, I'm out of here. And what happened was my life slowly but surely got better and better and better, and I became happier and happier and happier, and life started to become at least medium more enjoyable within months. God, it was like just a weight, or tons of weight, just lifted off my shoulders. Life just became easier. I mean, it wasn't just friends. It could be a business, something I'm doing in my business. Like, yeah, that's not working. Get rid of it. Let it go. No more. The direction and or trajectory of my life just improved and improved and improved. It was kind of like a slow, gradual, sloping increase in improvement over time. Okay, so here's another one. Especially with narcissists, sometimes some people literally cannot recognize a good person. They can't recognize love. They can't recognize loyalty. So here you were loving this person, supporting them through thick and thin, and helping them more than anyone's ever helped them. And you've been there for them through thick and thin, again and again. And they start disrespecting you, and they start, beating you down and treating you like shit. Now, let's just say this is or is not a narcissist. It really doesn't matter, because there's other people that have the same issue. You would think they would appreciate it because they've told you how much they've been hurt and how people are mean to them and on and on and on. And you're just kind of looking at them and like, well, yeah, but I've been good to you and like you treat me like shit. You may not say that, but or you may actually be in an argument like, hey, what's going on here? Why are you doing? And so in their mind, believe it or not, but because they've never been around someone who's loved them, been patient with them, understanding, compassionate, and like supported them and helped them and done a lot of things for them, it's a really weird thing. They don't understand it. I mean, their brain doesn't know what it is. It can't comprehend what's happening. Now, if you're an empath or light worker, you have the flip side of this. So what happens, like, okay, so I remember my energy healer / therapist years ago, she was, Michael, that's not love, that's abuse. What we're talking about is trauma bonding, where people will abuse you, and you took that as love. Like one of the stories I told you in the past, my mother would whip the shit out of us, walk out of the room, wait about a minute or two, and when we're crying hysterically, she'd come in and wrap her arms around us and hug us and tell her how much she loves us and blah 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 blah. So what ends up happening is you connect getting hurt, abused, to love. That's trauma bonding. I remember the first time this person said, Michael, that's not love, that's abuse. And I literally looked at her with this like, what? Like, you're crazy. I didn't say that, but my facial expression definitely said that. And I said, what are you talking about? That's definitely love. She said, Michael, that's not love. And she won't even argue about it. She goes, okay. And it took quite a while for me to start realizing, because she kept having, Michael, that's not love, that's abuse. Until I finally started to see it. So with a narcissist, they just abused you. And here's what happened. They played themselves. They pushed you away, and then they walked into someone else's arms who ended up hurting them and punishing them. So here's what happens. Like, if they're truly with a really good empath that has nothing but loving energy, I mean, you could fight and argue and yell back once in a while. So I'm not saying you have to be perfect, but you just have this overall loving energy. You're there for them. You help them. You go to the store. You grab things for them. You're just there for them. You're a loving, good person. They kind of get used to it, they kind of get comfortable, but their system can't quite recognize if it's good or bad. They don't understand. But what ends up happening is they really like it. They're very comfortable with it. And then they're like, screw this. This is too easy. And that easy thing works in this way too. That was from the last video, by the way, part 1. A lot of people think if something's easy, then it's not good, or it's not worthwhile, or it's not valuable. That is one thing you learn when you're on the spiritual healing journey. A lot of times, and I mean almost every time, the most powerful learnings are simple and unbelievably easy to do and understand. Usually it's just like walk away. So they end up leaving you for someone else, thinking, oh, this person's better, and that person played them. They suckered them in. They lied. They told them whatever they wanted to hear. They made all they did the same thing to them that they did to you. I guarantee you this has happened to them. And they get jerked around, they get used, they get abused, everything you can imagine. And then they start remembering what it was like with you. Now, in older videos, I talk about how life and the third dimension is all about contrast. Without contrast, a guitar string will not make any noise. You have to have friction. You have to have contrast. Same thing with images, art, paintings. If everything is pure white, you can't see nothing. You need darkness, you need black, you need yellows, you need green. You have to have contrast. The more contrast, the more you can develop a beautiful picture. Now, a lot of people think, yeah, so the more pleasure you receive, the more pain you're going to receive, or you have to experience a much, much deeper level of pain in order to appreciate, the goodness in life. No, that's not true. That just means you're not pay attention, or you'll pay in pain. If you pay attention, life will be smooth. Life will be unbelievably a lot funner than the path of pain. Like right now, after this whole 4-year isolation period, I got hurt really bad. Like, what happened? What do they do? What's going on? I'm paying attention a whole hell of a lot more than I was before. I'm picking up on these people that, yeah, this is not a good person. I'm out of here. Bye. So this narcissist you dealt with got hurt really, 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 really bad. And then they tried to find another person. Now what they're doing is they're looking for the same qualities in someone else that are already in you. Because of this contrast, they're very, 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 very aware. Like, holy shit, I had gold in my hands and I literally pushed it away. But the problem was they couldn't see that they had gold. They didn't have any contrast. They didn't have the opposite yet. So now they're going to spend the rest of their life looking for you, your love, your warmth, your compassion, your understanding, your support, everything in someone else. And they're never going to find it. We are very, very rare on this planet. We're so rare, they can't understand what we are. They don't get it. Remember how I told you how denseness really isn't good? That's evil, that's painful. Well, watch this. Here's another example. So I went to my ex-girlfriend's house in my 20s, and she was my ex at the time. So, I went over there, we went in, and her family was just mean to me, just rude, disrespectful, just flat out mean. And just give me the evil eye constantly. So we left, and I was like, I'm so sick and tired of this. And I go to my girlfriend, I go, what is the deal? What are they mad at me for? What did I do? She goes, well, you didn't do nothing. And I remember at one point, I go, I didn't do anything. And she goes, yeah, that's kind of why they don't like you. I'm like, what? She, because I was telling her, I've never done nothing. I've been nice. I've been polite. I've been good to you. And so you got to understand, this was second or third year, maybe even a little bit more now, of the relationship. And I'm like, I don't get it. What do I have to do? And she goes, well, she said, the reason why they don't trust you is because you haven't done anything wrong. And because I hadn't done anything wrong in 2 or 3 years or more, that's why they don't trust you. And I was like, what? It was just preposterous. So here's the deal. People that only know backstabbing, lying, cheating, being stolen from, their own family, friends, relatives, cousins, just constantly do messed up things, that's normal to them. And sure, they bitch, they moan, they complain, they even pay to go to therapists. I've got all these problems. And here's the deal, it's familiar to them. And I remember learning about this in therapy. So I went to this therapist where my sister recommended me go, and I was like, why? Mine's doing great. I've got a job, I'm going to school, I'm a national champion in kickboxing, but things were just awesome. You should talk to her. She's really smart. And this went on for about a month till I finally went. Well, my sister had told this lady, this therapist, stuff about our family, stuff that had gone down. And so I went there, I don't even know why I'm really here, in blah, blah, blah. I go, my sister just said it might be good for me to hear some things from you. So she had said, her name is Janet, by the way. And I forget how we got around this. She kind of, vaguely asked me questions like, how's your life? How's your family? How's your interaction? I'm like, oh, it's fine, blah, blah, I don't know. And she's, Michael, let me ask you a question. Has there ever been a time in your family's life, because my sister had already filled her in how chaotic our family was, etc., my mom. Has there ever been a time when everything was good? The bills were paid, your mom had a good job, like you had extra money, the car was fine, and everyone was doing well in school, and nobody was in trouble, and everything was fine. I was like, well, yeah, of course there's been times like that. She said, then what would happen? And I was like, I don't know, what are you talking? She was, Michael, think about it. Like, what would happen eventually? Like, everything's peaceful, everything's cool, everything's good. What would happen? And I remember it hit me like out of left field, kind of like smacked me upside the head. It's like, oh, my mom would always start something up. She would create some kind of chaos, some kind of lie, some kind of drama. Even though there was nothing wrong, she would create something. And she goes, yes, do you want to know why? Because I think I even said, yeah. I go, well, like, why though? It doesn't make sense. She goes, even though she doesn't like the chaos, she doesn't like worrying about, like there was a time when their transmission was going out, and I had told her, it's like, hey, if you start saving up now, you'll be able to have the money to pay for it when it goes out, because you could hear it starting to go. Oh, no, she just kind of ignored it, sweat the problems underneath. So when that transmission went out, she freaked out. I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, where I'm going to get the money, and so what Janet said, she goes, Michael, even though your mom doesn't like those kind of situations, she doesn't like to freak out about, oh my God, we're a month behind on the mortgage payment, I don't have money for, even though she doesn't like it, she's comfortable with it. I'm like, what? She said, when things are good and smooth and everything's going well, she goes, there's no chaos. And when she steps out of chaos, she kind of freaks out, and it's because there's nothing to control, there's nothing to yell about, there's nothing to scream. See, her whole life, she's lived in chaos, and because she was raised this way and lives this way and has been this way for decade after decade after decade, it's what she knows. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, well, it's familiar to her, and familiar's like being at home. It's familiar. I'm comfortable here. This is what I know. So she knows how to deal with chaos when there's problems, to yell, to scream, to beg, to call people, to do this, to do that. She knows how to deal with that environment. But when you take her out of that environment that she's dealt with her whole life into a peaceful environment, she's just like, this is foreign, this is odd, this is not familiar, and it scares her. So she'll create chaos to feel comfortable. Now, when she said this to me, you would not believe how many memories came up after years. And it was like, oh my God, that's right. We had this situation and where everything was good. And she would just sit there and bite her nails and just like something. I'm like, Mom, what's wrong? Oh, nothing. Because nothing was wrong. And that's what was wrong. So for a lot of people, until the pain gets really, 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 really bad, they don't want to leave. In fact, for a lot of you, the whole reason why you started watching narcissist abuse videos is because you were finally fed up. You're like, I don't want to go through that. I can't do this anymore. I've got to figure this out. And you caught a clue. Like, wait, what? That sounds like what's been going on with me. That sounds like what my ex did to me. Narcissist abuse. And you started learning about love bombing and the devaluation phase, blah, 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 the discard, etc., and what deflection is and hoovering and all this stuff. And you're like, wait a minute, that's exactly what they did to me. So now you're looking for a way out. Remember how I always tell you get what you focus on, so focus on what you want? If you're focusing on a way out of narcissist abuse, you are still focusing on narcissist abuse. So it's going to be a vicious cycle like AA. They call it a revolving door. See, it's like you're trying to walk out of something that you're focusing on, but it just brings you right back in. What you want to do is, okay, so if I don't have narcissist abuse and all this pain and suffering, then what's my highest purpose for that? Well, I want peace. Well, what's my highest purpose for that? Well, I want to get along in life. I want to do well in life. So what you need to do is focus on what you want versus what you don't want. If you say, I don't want narcissist abuse, I don't want to feel this pain, well, that's what you're focusing on, therefore you're going to get. So if you don't want that, then what do you want? Well, I want to be prosperous. I want to be happy. I want to feel this solid, loving feeling inside. I want to just feel good inside. So believe it or not, the reason why you have to get away from these people is because they have to change. They have to shift their energy, and they have to do it. You can't do it for them. So until enough people leave that person, until they feel enough real pain, they're not going to change, and it's just going to ruin your life. You know, a lot of you compliment, so I'm shifting here a little bit, but it's from that about changing. A lot of you compliment me on my voice, and you're like, you just feel so comforting to listen to. It's just nice and blah, 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 and it feels good. It's relaxing, okay? And here's the thing. I learned how to open up. Now, I didn't logically learn to talk like that, because then I'd talk like this. I learned how to ground myself, drop down inside, expand my awareness, and all of this shifted all of my energy. I can teach you how to do this to create wonderful emotions and feelings inside you. Most people walk through life and they talk like this and they don't even know they're doing it, but what it does, it tightens up your forehead and it sends this irritating energy through your face and your head, and by the end of the day you're like, oh God, I hate life, life sucks, and not only that, but then you irritate the people that are around you, then they yell at you, why are people always mad at me? I wonder why. Maybe it's your energy. You can change this. You can shift. You can become more conscious and aware of the way you're talking, of where your energy's at. Is it closed? Do you have a closed forehead chakra? Is everything tight? Or is it open and relaxed? And if it is tight, well, how do I shift this? You can literally learn how to open up and drop down inside. It's like a painting. You have to learn how to create your emotions and feelings. That was the whole purpose and reason why you're here. It's not just coincidence that a lot of you come to my videos and you're like, God, I feel so good when I listen to your video. My life's turning around. There's a lot of things that I learned how to do to create this energy and this vibration. Again, it's the internal awareness class and the internal awareness techniques and grounding techniques. Alright, that's it, guys. If you're looking for coaching, get a hold of me. This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Hey, if you like this video, please click subscribe, click the like button, go ahead and make a comment. And remember, if you want to go ahead and make a donation, there's a PayPal link right there in the description box. God bless you guys. I'll see you soon.